Mr. Smith. You like a
What's
whole
up?
guy.
What's good? What's happening? Welcome to the King and Me Show. I'm one half of the Steen King.
Hey y'all, it's me, Michelle. How y'all doing?
Babe, why didn't you give pre-production notes before we went live?
Well, I just looked over and noticed.
Okay. People are probably like, what are they talking about? She asked me to move up 10 seconds before we were about to be on screen presenting these faces. But you know what? We here, we live, and we here at the King and Me Show are looking to offer a real outlook on a healthy relationship. Real being relatable,
Entertaining
accountable.
and loving.
We're streaming on multiple platforms. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, and Perry Productions page over on Facebook. If there's a like button, do us a solid. All we asking for is to mash that like button. Help get us out there on the algorithm. I got some announcements to make.
Uh-oh.
So
Let me get my blanket ready.
So Paul Bennett, I
sorry.
joined and watched the content that him and Pete put out yesterday, and they gave us some real glowing reviews about what we do over here.
Aww.
And Paul's been in the game. He is married over 25 plus years, and to hear that we have a solid foundation through the eyes of somebody that's made it work as long as he has, that was a moment that I think speaks to both of us or whatnot. So I just wanted to share that with you because that just happened yesterday. So
you love me, don't you?
look, it ain't about love. No, it ain't about love at this point. Let me tell you. It's about what we're trying to do. Like, why are we spreading our message? This channel got started because Michelle and I were comfortable allowing people to come into our life and follow our relationship. We've only known each other for over 2 years at this point.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. We're babies in the relationship game.
We're like almost at 3 years. So.
You know?
We're like almost at 3.
We're not even
like practically there.
Not even no. We got like 9 more months.
We do not have 9 more months.
Is it less than 9?
It is less than 9.
How many months we got?
Okay, 5, but still, whatever.
How do you know it? Never mind.
Because today's my half birthday.
And that was my other announcement. Today is your half birthday.
It's my half birthday. I'm 38 and a half.
Tell people what a half birthday is, because I just learned this fairly recently.
It means 6 months ago I turned 38, and 6 months from now I'll turn 39. Why
do people do it?
Oh, I do it because I'm corny.
Oh.
But there are some companies, so like when I wasn't vegan, I used to sign up to get free meals from like every single restaurant and company. And who was it? Cold Stone. So I should check my email. Cold Stones would send you a coupon for your half birthday and say, it's your half birthday. Come in and get a treat. So at the end of the day, it's a market employee. Everything, if you got a question about why something exists, it's a market employee. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and check my email and see if I got any coupons.
No doubt. My daughter introduced me to half birthdays, and the reason why she celebrates it. Her birthday's over the summer. So if your peers and stuff aren't around, if you have a birthday in like May, June, July, August time frame, sometimes you don't get a chance to celebrate it as others do in other months. So she would have a half birthday to increase her chances of her peers being able to celebrate her birthday with her. So
Yeah.
so that was my understanding of it.
No, it's a marketing ploy, but everything is a marketing ploy. Everything, Valentine's Day, the commercialization of Christmas, St. Patrick's Day. Like, most people don't even pay attention to St. Patrick's Day. But let me ask you what tomorrow is, and I'm sure you'll be able to tell me it's Fat Tuesday. Why? Everything boils down to marketing, marketing, marketing. What can I commercialize to be able to turn a fat profit off of?
What's Fat Tuesday about? I've heard of it, but for some reason it's not clicking with me.
Mardi Gras, New Orleans.
New Orleans?
New Orleans.
Hey, New Orleans getting money. They just had the Super Bowl not too long ago. Now you got Mardi Gras right behind it.
Yep.
I'm trying to take a trip for us or plan a trip, but this year is already kind of playing out. Unless we just come across a windfall of money. We should get to New Orleans.
Ears, where's this windfall of money? I keep wondering why I'm not winning the lotto. And aside from the fact that I don't play, like, I don't understand why I'm not winning.
You gotta be in it to win it.
I played bingo last week and ain't win nothing.
We played bingo last week.
We played
and we didn't do anything. We sound like old people right now. We was at the bingo hall.
We had the little plotter, like, we didn't win. You know what? I think it was the plotter. I've never used a plotter when I played bingo.
A bingo dauber?
Whatever. I had the little chips that I would put on there.
Yes,
and I swore I used to win all the time with them chips. You give me a little dauber and all of a sudden I don't win.
You should have brought your chips then.
I thought they were going to supply chips.
Okay.
I thought it was a real bingo hall. Would they give you chips?
I've never done bingo with chips.
Man.
And I've got some hours in bingo. My mother is a bingo connoisseur. She's the type of bingo player that can play up to like 30 cards at one time and not miss a single number whatsoever. I grew up playing bingo because of her.
The thing is, like, I grew up playing bingo too, but only at like social events. Man, that sounds like it's alcohol. I only played at social events, but for me, everything was with the little chips.
Okay. We had a couple of comments. We got Paul Bennett, who we acknowledged earlier in the building on YouTube, said good evening. Will 4K checking in on YouTube as well. He said that 2 years is like 10 in this day and age of dating.
Thank you.
And he's right.
That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
What do you think? And this is to anybody watching, whether it's TikTok, Twitch, or whatever. I'm curious. What do you think, without looking it up, is the average relationship span of people that are dating? I have a number in my head. When you get your number, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then say the number.
Okay.
Okay, so it'd be like the number and whatever unit of measurement that you have with this. Okay, so you have yours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
6 months.
Yes. Observationally, it looks as though when we're looking around at our peers, whether it's older, younger, or folks in our same age range, 6 months is that number where you go,
yeah,
I've invested enough in this and I don't see this going anywhere, so I'm out. Or where you go, you know what? I like this person. I kind of want to see, if I could take this further. Now, I don't remember who was that presenter? The guy that I instantly was like,
Malik.
Malik or something like that. He was
Nino Malik.
Yes, he was the economics professor or something like that.
Economics to dating was the thing that we took. Mm-hmm.
I think he covered that in his presentation as well, but I wasn't thinking about that when I gave my answer. Mine was more observationally. It seemed like people just last about 6 months. And then you have that go, no-go factor, which in aviation is the term that you would use to decide if you needed to take off or we need to abort because stuff ain't looking right.
And see, that's what he said was the when marginal benefit equals marginal cost, and you just decide to either get married or call it off.
No doubt. We got Tarika in the building as well. Said, evening, king and queen. What up, Tarika? Appreciate you tuning in, the young lady.
His math is mathing
6
over
months
here.
is 4 years in this day and age. I'll say the average is around a month. He said average is around a month.
Man.
In bigger markets or bigger places.
I was about to say, was that because of where he lives?
Because of where he lives. And I would say you get Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New York City, Atlanta, DC, Philadelphia, Baltimore.
Heavy.
What's the West Coast if you go north? Could you say Seattle? I don't know.
No, I don't think
Seattle,
so.
Seattle's in its
I
own
don't know.
category.
Seattle of Love Is Blind was wild though, but I'm just saying.
I don't think I watched that one.
It was like 5 or 6 or something like that. No, I think it was like 5 or something.
Okay, so on one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're on 8 right now.
Oh, okay.
I ain't watch it, but I heard it's a hot mess.
It's always a hot mess.
I was about to say all of their seasons are a hot mess. Shout out to I think it was Maka Maka
Mocha Mocha Maka Maka Maka. Something like that.
Thank you.
I think that they were talking about me though.
I think they were talking about.
Tell me what you want.
I'm like 87%
Tell me
sure.
what you need.
I just finished a book today, and it was such an amazing book. It was written by Victoria Christopher Murray. Okay. It's called Harlem Rhapsody. And the way that she, the author, just easily flowed between English and French, and how the main character, the protagonist of the book, because it was historical fiction, the way that she just like brought that character to life was just so amazing, and it just has me wanting to study French all of a sudden.
Interesting. I think you should study French. Everything about the French culture. I back that.
Let's go to France and let me study it that way. How about that?
I heard that France don't like people of color.
I heard America don't either, but yeah, we still here.
This is true. Facts. Shout out to Tom as well. What up, what up, what up? Let's see. King and Me Show and chat. Hope all is well. Stay consistent and healthy. Focused and motivated every day. 100. Boom. Now, before we get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is dating preferences, it's a new month.
It is.
Time for us to update our calendar. And before you do, always try to guess what we did, because this will be March of 2024.
March of 2024.
So March of 2024, we were together.
Yeah.
Out somewhere.
Yeah.
And the picture that you chose would have been a picture of us where you're smiling and I'm not.
Now, you're like all the way right, kind of.
Okay.
I just don't remember where we were. Like, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, I legit don't know where we were.
Okay.
But it's funny because, oh, I know what cup that is. All right, so here we go.
Oh.
We cute.
Let me see if I can notice something in the background here. So we were on our way somewhere in the car.
So we were out.
I got a toboggan on.
You got a Scully on, a beanie on.
You looking good.
Always.
And yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Maybe we were coming back from Pennsylvania or something, like on the back roads.
We was going somewhere. I know what cup that is in there. That cup is my well-behaved women seldom make history, which is perfect because this is Women's History Month. So it's perfect that I took that picture in March and that I'm discussing it now in March again.
Good deal. Will 4K said, and all bold, by the way, do not come to Atlanta looking for love. You know, Atlanta's different. I was down in Atlanta. I hung out with Will 4K. That's the homie. He's the owner of Perry Productions, a fast-growing Facebook page.
Fast-growing.
And
I'm going to say it now. That page is going to be at 500K before the end of this week.
Hey.
And a week for me ends on Saturday. So I'm going to say he's going to be at 500K by Saturday.
Yes. And he's coming up. He's coming up for BlurredCon this weekend. So we'll all get the chance to. Have y'all met? It seems like you've met
in
everybody.
Person? No, because if I had met him, I would have stolen that friend too.
Stop stealing my friends. Y'all, she's stealing all my peers and all my friends. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
I love you.
Said, not Drew Hill, tell me. Now, let's get into it. Dating preferences. I see too often where people, when they're listing out their preferences, in my opinion, you're allowed to have your preferences, but sometimes these preferences are borderline audacious.
Ooh, come on, tell me more.
One of the obvious ones that I can bring up, and it's a content creator by the name of Kendra G. She's an online personality, former radio show host.
With her own dating app. Come on, Black woman.
She got very popular during the pandemic and now has what she calls is a dating show. It's called Singles on Kendra G.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll ask a set of questions with the people, getting some background information about them, and then ask them what it is that they desire. Mm-hmm. Very similar to what Kevin Samuels did when he was alive. He was a content creator as well, had a meteoric rise, and then is no longer living on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
But Kevin Samuels wasn't necessarily promoting dating. Like, that wasn't his sole thing. He was more of a consultant. So he was consulting people about life.
Okay.
Almost, he wasn't a life consultant, but that's what he did. He would hear you.
He was like adjacent.
Yes. He would say by trade he was an image consultant. I see what you did. Now, he threw me off. It was that plus your own laugh to it that just threw me off. But one of the things that he'd ask you is, okay, well, what is it that you're looking for? And if you're somebody that is saying that I want a man that's making over 6 figures, he's got to be tall, muscular, and handsome, no more than 2 kids, and God-fearing, and CEO, then you also, while it's okay for you to have that preference, oh, I got it. Now I get it. Okay, I'm gonna have to chamber this hand. I was giving her the claw.
Y'all, have you ever noticed that in every
Apparently, I've done this on every episode. While it's okay to have your preferences, you have to be realistic about what those preferences mean,
mm-hmm.
right? What is it that you desire? And do those people that you desire you? And for about 100% of the people that go out and have these unrealistic expectations, they are not the person that person that they're seeking desires.
Right. So Tom says something that makes a lot of sense. Tom basically said that Kendra G is getting to the point where Kevin Samuels was saying that these women are delusional, and he said including herself. So saying that Kendra G herself is also a little bit delusional.
She is. I want to like her. I don't know her in real life. She may not see this, but I want to like her. But there's something about her personality that leads me to go, I don't know. It would take a special person. Like, as a human being, I respect her.
Mm-hmm.
If I were evaluating her for a potential relationship, I know I don't have what she desires, and I'm fine with that. I am totally okay with that. But it takes somebody special to be able to be in a relationship with her and it thrive.
Wasn't she in a relationship? Like, I remember at one point she was posting this, and I hate to say it, especially about my brother, and now that I know my ancestral history, but she was with an African man. Is she not with him anymore?
Nope.
Oh no, what happened?
That's the thing. Only her intimate social circle knows. While she was posting it very publicly, they did a birthday celebration together.
Yeah.
All of that jazz. The breakup was quiet. It was a quiet breakup. And you and I have talked about that. To be in a public relationship when you're a public figure is one thing. And when you share that stuff, you're choosing to share it, which is what you and I are doing.
Right.
When we made things official, we made it official.
Oh, yeah. We went social media official and all of that.
And that was before we talked about, hey, why don't we do a live stream together to where we're talking about, our relationship and sharing it. And we were early on. Now, I'm going to say this.
Say it.
It's not that I had doubts, but I always go, well, what if this doesn't work out? To where I said, well, for as public as the relationship was being shared, it was always my thing of, I wouldn't do the quiet breakup separation thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather address it head on to say, all right, y'all, look, the reason why Michelle ain't here, we broke up. So this is the announcement announcing that. I ain't answering no questions. I don't want to talk about it. Oh man, we got Lost in Translation pod. Oh, Lost in Translation's in the building. Over on
Hey.
TikTok said actually just sent the gift. So appreciate Lost in Translation for popping in over on TikTok. Now, Paul Bennett asks, why is it that these relationship content creators are seldom in a relationship? You know,
I think, that's such a good question. I think
that's a
it
great
boils
question.
down to they don't, they themselves aren't what they like. They can't find someone who meets their criteria or
Yes.
qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that I can think that does not apply to is the woman who's in over Pop the Balloon or Find Love or something.
Arletta, how do you say her name?
Yeah, because she does that show with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's like the only one who is an exception to that rule.
All right. I know somebody, I don't know them personally, but they kind of mentored us, John and Nicole from the Better Than Perfect podcast.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
So they were separate. John was a content creator himself, very successful in what he does. Nicole and I, we started podcasts, like audio podcasting at the same time. I reached out to her to kind of say, hey, I like an accountability partner. And her podcast was called Date Me or Hate Me. And one of the things that stood out about Nicole was that Nicole had a very easy to listen to voice. And she would tell stories really good. And this, I have to do the Obama so that I don't hit you with the claw.
I can't. This is like making my son.
She would tell stories really good. So her and I had an online relationship through podcasting in which we helped keep each other accountable. And then when she met John, they dated, they eventually got married, and now they're sharing their marriage on all of the social media platforms in what I would call a successful
they are
relationship podcast. But it's rare. I can't think of any, but it's also like, what are you looking for? What is your algorithm feeding you? I know that Kev on stage and his wife do some things together. Angel and her husband,
the Tanksleys,
yes, they have theirs where they talk about their relationship, marriage, and just life in general and stuff together. But two people have to be comfortable to be able to do that. If you weren't comfortable being somebody that was okay sharing your life online or doing a live stream, then we couldn't do this. I've been on camera for years now.
However, what I will say is looking at Pop the Balloon or Find Love, maybe if one of us wasn't comfortable with the camera, the other one could be the one behind the scenes running like all the technical stuff. Because again, they're a husband and wife duo who do that show, but you never see the husband. It is always the woman because, hey, that sells, especially her attire. And I'm not saying that like she dresses provocatively, but just saying like that sells and that can be very appealing. So it just works out that way.
Now, let me ask you this. Talk me through the difference between having your dating preferences versus straight up discrimination.
Like, what's the difference, or how do you tread that line?
How do you tread that line?
I think preferences are amazing, but I think if you get to the point where you're not even willing to consider anyone who falls out of those preferences, then I feel it's a little bit of discrimination. So here's the example that I'll give. So for example, I remember before I met you, I was having a conversation with my therapist. Literally, like that summer before I met you, I was having a conversation with my therapist that I did not want to date anyone who had been married or who had children, because I just either I wanted to be the one to give my partner that first, or we just weren't going to do it, right? And he specifically said to me, I could be missing God's blessing if I did that. That was a preference. But if I flat out said, no, 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 I'm never, ever, 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 ever doing that, and I met someone and they turned out to be really nice and everything else clicked, and then I find out like not in a secretive way or anything, but like I find out that they have kids and I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do it, then that's when I believe it's discrimination. I think what we so often hear is, especially, and I've heard Kendra G say it on her show, a man will say that he doesn't want a woman who's above a certain size. And you will hear women be all up in arms saying, he's discriminating, he's discriminating, he's discriminating. And one thing that Kendra G has said that I do agree with is, you know, women will have all their preferences for how a man will look. And it's not, no man considers it discrimination if you if a woman says that, but a woman will consider it discrimination if a man says that he doesn't want a woman above a certain size.
Yep.
However, I fall back to, in general, my blanket belief for it being discrimination is if you're not even willing to try something else. Like if they check every other box on your list, I do believe it's discrimination. But before I even look at the comments, but I will say, if it gets to the point where you aren't attracted to this person, so let's say, man or woman, you're with someone who checks every single emotional, spiritual, financial, relational goal or box that you have, but you physically can't look at them because there's something physically about them that is not appealing or attractive to you, I feel like you're doing both of you a disservice if you remain in that situation. And that's where I believe sometimes a preference is not necessarily discrimination, but I do believe it's a fine line.
Now, the reason why I smile and laugh is because Paul actually asked that question. True or false? Women have preferences. Men are discriminatory.
I would say false.
I would say the way society views it,
well, yeah,
it's true. But in essence, how that is applied is false. But just like what you said, if a man states what his preference is, he's going to get vilified. Yet if a lady states what her preferences are, oh, you know, there are preferences. They are scrutinized. They can be scrutinized, especially when you say, well, I want a guy, you know, with all the sixes and everything like that. Then you would go, you look like Beetlejuice.
So then I also challenge it and I say, when a woman says, I want this man who is, I feel like it's body shaming, I feel like it's stereotyping and body shaming that goes hand in hand with that. Because when a woman says, I want this man who is 6 feet, makes 6 figures, and what's the other 6?
It can be changed, but 6-pack.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with 6-pack. Okay. I feel like you are assuming that every man is capable of doing that. And I feel like that is a stereotype. You're assuming every man should be able to do all 3 of those things or have all 3 of those things. And that's not realistic. So why is that any different from a man saying that his woman should be well kept and be trimmed? Are you saying that because of our hormones, we're the more delicate gender and we're not able to achieve those same health goals that a man is able to achieve, and we're not able to achieve, well, the financial things? Okay, yeah, there is a whole lot of historical discrimination that goes into that. But are you saying that we're not able to do that? So I think women just get comfortable with where they fall short, and if they're comfortable with where they fall short, when a man sets his standards, they feel some type of way about that. And I don't think that that's fair for you to feel some type of way because a man has standards. You have standards as well. So,
question from Paul again. True or false? Women have preferences, but men are shallow. My answer doesn't change. While it's false, in reality, the way society views it, I think it's true. Like, let a man say that I want a woman that is blonde hair, blue-eyed, Coke bottle, whatever, yada yada, and they're basing it just on looks, really, for the most part, because looks are important, and
for some,
I think and I can't speak for all men, because literally I can't speak for, there isn't anybody who's preferences are the same as mine on this earth, period. But we can share a lot of similarities, right? Mm-hmm. When I saw you at Ellie's house, I've said this very publicly. I was like, oh, she bad, but I wasn't looking for a relationship at the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, had you not re-engaged after you left, we would not be here. We
would not be here.
Because it's funny. Now we know some of the same people, but we never really ran in the same circles.
Never. Like, we do the same thing. Never ran into each other. In answer to Paul's question, I think it depends. I wouldn't say that men are shallow. I think it all depends, right? Like, if your reason for wanting a blonde hair, blue-eyed person is because you want your kids to come out looking a certain way, then yes, that is shallow. If you are saying that I want to date a person of this race and this ethnicity because this is how my parents look, this is how my mother looks, this is how my dad looks, and this is what I believe is attractive, I think that is a little bit shallow.
So it's your reasons.
I think it's your reasons that play into that.
So you're saying, like, if you're question then. If you're a woman that's over 6'3" and you want D1 babies, you're not going to get with somebody that's under 6'1" themselves?
But you just said it. Like, that's a shallow reason. It may be a reason. It could be a justifiable reason, but it's still shallow.
Okay.
It's still shallow.
Time over on YouTube says, I believe preference is discrimination.
And that's fair. That is fair for Time to say that.
They're very similar.
It's a fine
Which is why we said it's a fine
line. It's like a toothpick not a toothpick, a floss-sized line. It is very, very fine.
Nice. Lost in translation over on TikTok. I wish we could display TikTok comments on the screen.
Same.
But for now, until we figure it out, I am going to acknowledge it. Lost in translation said, I'm single and have a podcast. I'm looking for a woman who displays the fruits of the spirit. Mm-hmm. I also followed that up after that with, I know better and don't get trapped by looks. Look, that's something that comes with wisdom.
Yeah.
Like, in my 20s, if I were out in these streets, looks would have been the more thing. So in my 20s, I was married for most of my 20s, y'all. And going back to just how I thought about life. And I can separate this because I can put things in boxes. If I were single in my 20s, looks would have been one of the things that would have led me just down the wrong path. But as you get older and you gain wisdom, you realize that it's not just looks. And it's a good thing that for you, at least visually, I liked what I saw. But then as I got to know you, I was like, oh, she's dope.
I am very smart.
You are.
During the hours when I'm sleeping, because during the day it's kind of...
No, not true. Not true. Now, we got through some of the questions. We talked about the role of physical attraction. Let's get into that a little bit more. Obviously, looks play a role in what it is that you like. If you were to take a look at people that I've been in a relationship with, just throughout life in general.
Aside from me, they all look the same.
No. Now, growing up, people did say that they always thought that I had a type because some of my...
Tell them what your type was.
In high school, I had relationships with women that were Hispanic. And I didn't live in an area that had a lot of Hispanic people.
But he found them all.
So earlier on, people just thought that was my type. And it wasn't true.
Was it false, though?
It wasn't false. But it wasn't just the full makeup. I ended up dating and being in relationships with people that liked me. And what was interesting was that, and I've said this on my live streams, I grew up in a kind of a city area. I wouldn't call it like when people say city, they think a place like Philly. It's not like that. It's a bigger town, and the racial makeup was diverse in my opinion. Mostly white, mostly black, some stuff sprinkled in between. You'll rarely find Asians. And I didn't have a lot of black girls in high school that were interested in me.
Your first girlfriend, what was her ethnicity, her race?
Mexico.
So she was Mexican. So
Mexican.
here's what I need you to understand. Like if you are however old you are and I see you, I'm looking from the outside in and I see you with a woman who looks a certain way and that's the first person, the first woman that you have claimed to be your girlfriend and this is what she looks like. Better or worse, right or wrong, women are going to assume that that's your type. If it had been a black woman, a black woman who looked a certain way, they would have assumed that that was your type. And then that's the type of woman that's going to start flocking to you. So you said black women weren't attracted to you because they saw you with that first Mexican woman or young lady, and they're like, oh, well, that's what he's after, then I'm not going to give him the time of day. Right or wrong, better or worse, that's where that logic comes from.
I understand it.
It's stupid.
But
we're also talking about like high schoolers. Like, come on. Like there's this girl at my school. I love this kid. Like, absolutely love this kid. However, there have only been 2 young men that I distinctly remember this child saying, OMG, he is so gorgeous. He is so gorgeous. Now, mind you, this is a light-skinned young lady. Her mom is white. Her dad is black. She's probably like a little bit like your complexion-y. Very beautiful. She is very, very beautiful. And the 2 men that I have ever heard her say that about have been chocolate brothers, like chocolate young men. And like she gets like all googly eyes and she'll be like, hey, how you doing? And like she'll do like the little flirt and I'm just like, it makes me laugh just because like I know she's serious, but like the way she's hitting on them is like so not serious at all. But like I know she's serious. It makes my heart chuckle. Those are like that's not who you would assume that this young lady would be attracted to, but that is. And she has a type. She has a type. That's the preference that she has. And the moment that she locks down a young man who looks a certain way, especially if it looks like that chocolate young man that she's always been eyeing, then people will know this is her type.
Let me ask a curiosity question. As an educator, if you're seeing stuff like take away the bad stuff that are mandatory report type things that are just bad and wrong, if you see something that somebody could use some counseling on or some advice on, are you able to provide guidance when it comes to high school relationships?
Only if they ask.
Okay.
And I never tell my students to break up with anyone unless there is something physically or emotionally going on which would cause issues for either party. I never give them advice unless they ask me for it.
Okay.
Because if something goes wrong, then it's like, well, Miss Early, you told me to do this, so I did what you said. Or it's like typical friendship advice. You don't give advice unless you're asked. Because let's say I tell these 2 students, like I tell the girl to break up with the guy for whatever reason, right? And then like we're having this whole discussion and I'm like, well, honey, he does X, Y, and Z. Like, is that really something that you want to be a part of? And then she ends up getting back with him later. Like, I've just ruined my relationship with that student because I provided advice that they ended up going against later on for whatever their greater good was. So, number one, unless there is physical or emotional harm coming in, I don't interject. Otherwise, I will only provide advice if asked. And it's not even that I'm providing advice. It's one of those guidance things, kind of like a therapist. Like, well, what do you think is best for you to do? Does this align with the future that you want to have? Is this something that you're really thinking about right now? What have your parents said? You know, something along those lines. So it's not even me directly giving advice. It's me having that student think back on it for themselves.
Okay. All right.
CYA moment up in here.
No doubt. Shout out to Donovan Jackson over on the King and Me's TikTok for the gifter badge as well. Thank you, Donovan Jackson. We appreciate that. Make sure I said your name right. Yes, Donovan Jackson. All right. Hey, Tom is coming up here saying some stuff.
Tom got time.
Tom got
Go
time
ahead.
today. So scrolling back up, said, yes, I'm saying that women buy food, men hunt for food. A man wouldn't put his wife in harm's way. I don't believe every woman would do that for their husband, but I believe that every man will. I don't disagree with that.
Would you put yourself in harm's way for me?
Absolutely.
Aww.
I wouldn't even hesitate, right? And we ain't married. But there's a level of things that has occurred in our relationship that have gotten me to that point. You show, in my opinion, unconditional love. And in my opinion, love has conditions.
Oh, the area where my gallbladder used to be hurts. Go ahead.
So for how our relationship is and the nature of what it is, I don't have a problem being the one that would put myself in harm's way if it is to protect you. And I'm going to say this very vaguely. I also feel like, well, if something happened, I could make it. I don't know if you could. That's how I think.
Wow.
Right or wrong, it's just how I think. You know, there's this thing that I used to say all the time is, well, I'm built for this. But I think that in most situations, I am built for this.
You know what you can't do?
Oh, I want to hear this.
And I'm petty enough to say it online.
Oh, bring the petty.
You can't sleep on your left side.
Oh, wow. In the stream now. You know what? Props. That was a good one. That's an inside joke. Time also followed that up with and said, King, there's no way a man can be shallow as much money as a man can make, whether he's a millionaire. He'll date a waitress, and a man dates what he likes, a woman dates what she can get. I don't disagree with that either. I don't disagree with that.
I don't think a woman, I think.
Oh, that's, ooh.
Specifically the last part, not everything, but specifically the last part, a woman dates what she can get.
A woman women don't have problems with getting sex. It is getting a relationship.
Now that part I would agree with. That part I would agree with.
And I believe that that's where time was going with that. A woman will date what she can get. A woman will date whatever man is willing to give her the time.
Okay.
I don't disagree with that, time. Speaking of time, Emmy, you gonna do King like that? Wow, that's lovely. Shout out to Pete. Pete, I talked about you earlier, man. I gave you and Paul a shout out. Thanks for allowing me to conversate on y'all's platform the other night. Now, let me go over here to TikTok. She displayed the fruits of the spirit.
I pulled them up. I wasn't sure if you were going to ask me what they were, so I had them pulled up for you.
Yeah. So go ahead.
All right. So it comes from Galatians 5:22 through 23.
Ooh, I can't spell Galatians.
I love the name Galatians.
Would you ever name somebody Galatians?
No.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I like name. Never mind. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So it's fruit of the Spirit, meaning when you have the Holy Spirit within you, this is what you exhibit. It's not an or, it's an and.
Okay.
This is what you exhibit, and it's one. Like,
can you say those again?
So love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
All fantastic qualities that I think should be mandatory. If you want to be in a healthy relationship, they should be mandatory for everybody. I can say with 100% confidence, you have those.
Except for patience. The Lord's still working on me.
You got patience with me, way more patience with me than you're willing, than you know. Let me say that. Because y'all, look, I got ways about myself. And it's funny because people that know me say anybody that's willing to put up with King must actually love that man. I'm telling y'all, I got ways about myself. And you don't shy away from, even though you tried to. You tried some stuff early on.
Oh, you mean like in the beginning? That was before like the 6 month period. So like,
It
I don't
was.
even think that counts.
It was. That's actually funny because yeah, it was prior to the 6 month
It was
period.
literally like month one.
There were, how many times did we have where
I distinctly remember one. No, I distinctly remember two. It was that first November, that first December. Everything else, do you remember?
okay,
Or anything else, I should say, you remember?
we'll come back to that. Let's see. Okay, for some of the stuff that we talk about is going to sound like a broken record if you follow us enough. But when you're looking at preferences and things like that, where do values come into play? Speaking of the fruit of the spirit, because some of that stuff is tied to values.
Based. Yeah.
It's value based.
Yeah.
So when should people think about values when out and dating and vetting?
I think you should apply it immediately. Like, you need to think about what matters to you, what you're looking for when it comes to the dating scene, and not compromise on that. And again, I don't think that's being picky. I don't think that's being shallow. I think you should, personal opinion, you should have preferences when it comes to personality traits, not necessarily physical preferences about how a person looks. Because at the end of the day, looks fade. It is said in Proverbs 31 that charm is deceitful and beauty is passing. Like, it doesn't last forever. Eventually, gravity takes in every way, shape, and form. Our cortisone and all them other whatevers that are going on through our body kick in. Our shape changes, all of that stuff. We're eventually all going to get old and wrinkly, some probably faster than others. Collagen will fade, hair lines will recede, all of that stuff is going to fade. But these personality traits, like, are they there? And I think that's where you should have your pickiness and your preferences that come through.
Lost in Translation said that I've had to walk away from some absolutely gorgeous women, and that what you are willing to walk away from, God will bring to you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had to walk away from somebody?
Mm-hmm.
So have I. Share yours.
My last relationship prior to you, and then every guy that I dated in between that relationship leading up to you, I had to walk away. Like, I just knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. Like, you talk about, I have patience as it pertains to you. I don't see it, but that's neither here nor there. But what I will say is, I didn't have it in my previous relationship, and the love that I thought I had wasn't enough to withstand that.
Okay. Before I get into mine, I am curious. Paul asked, do you put values over relationship beliefs or doctrine? And that question was to you specifically.
So, do I put values over religious belief or doctrine? Do you mean in dating or in like who I am as a person? Because I will say that publicly, we know that King has publicly stated he is not religious. And that was something that was never a big point of contention for me. It was never one of those, are you sure you don't want to convert? Like, can I talk to you about Jesus? It was never one of those moments.
And I thought it would be very early on.
He did. Like when I say he was legit terrified that I was going to do that, that has never been a thing for me. My thing as it pertains to religion and as it pertains to King is, number one, are you prohibiting or attempting to prohibit me from going to church emotionally or physically? Do you bash, insult, or demean my relationship in any way? Or number three, do you, like, every other guy that I've dated before King, except for that one guy who was Muslim, because I make a point of saying that I've only dated 2 non-Christians. One was a Muslim and the other is you. And even the Muslim was very religious. Every other guy that I've dated was Christian and never in church with me. And I recognize that for some, they don't define their religion by their church attendance. But I also look at it like, what other factors are coming into play?
Okay.
I don't know if that answered Paul's question. So if not, Paul, just let me know.
Now, I'm going to talk about the relationship that I walked away from. I walked away from a relationship. There were a couple of things that were working against us. But chief among them was that she lived an hour away. Mm-hmm. That was one thing. Second, I was broke. Now, she knew that. Going into the relationship, I didn't portray one thing and then lived another thing or whatnot, but we made things work. We still found ways to date amongst each other, get laughs in, you know, have the relationship work with both of us not really making good money at the time. This was after my divorce, when I still should have been primarily focused on reducing debt and getting my money up. Mm-hmm. So I walked away from that relationship because I had the realization that as long as I'm in this, I really can't build and get to where I need to go. So that was the relationship that I walked away from and went straight monk mode. I got off the apps. I stayed away from anybody that might have tried flirting with me when I was out, which is funny because I don't notice that stuff. And like, you have to directly see me, come to me and say, I like you.
Trust me, I
know. So that was the last relationship that I walked away from. But by doing that, y'all, let me tell you, I stress things that if stuff in your life is going wrong, I attribute and say 9 times out of 10, I might go a little bit lower than that on these odds. It's because of your relationship with other people. So not just the romantic relationship, but that's one of the biggest time suckers, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're out here spending money that you don't have, which is what I was doing, if you're out here giving time when your time could have been better spent building value in your life, and that person isn't adding value to your life by being with them, then you're not doing yourself a service being in that relationship. And that's one of the things that I recognized in Michelle early on, is that when I was with her, it wasn't just a liability suck, meaning I was giving things out.
You said that.
And not getting anything back in return. I realized early on, even before we decided to make things official, I said, well, I would like to know her, even if we don't have a relationship like that, because I think she's a dope person and a value add. From a networking perspective, it just made sense.
Let's check. That was a networking project? I'm kidding. I'm so kidding.
Maybe. Just saying. Now, going back to earlier, and I totally missed this, I got excluded one time because of my height. So y'all, I'm 5'7.5". But if you round up, I just say 5'8". I'm 5'8". Michelle is taller than me for people that have never met us in real life. And it's funny, for people that have never met you in real life, I was clawing you. For people that have never met you in real life, people don't realize how tall you are.
I like to think I'm shorter. Like, really, I have the mentality that I'm shorter than I really am. So random, but so related. I was cleaning out my closet Saturday when I was avoiding writing, and I found some shoes that were in the back of the closet. Like, there's some sandals, and I was like, oh, I love these. And they're like a little chunky heel. And I was like, I don't want to give these up. So I'm literally keeping them, but I don't know when they will get worn. So if you see me in some chunky heels this time, like over the summer, it's because I found them in the back of my closet and I love them. They're so comfortable and I don't want to give them up. So
cool. So you're with a man that has never cared about that. Side note, was it a date? Were we dating? We had a relationship-ish.
But see, my issue is
with somebody that was 6'2".
Everyone around me is shorter than me.
Because you're tall for a woman, babe.
I don't I don't like wearing heels, especially when I'm around Castle, because I feel like I'm towering over.
Castle's
Okay,
itty
I
bitty.
realize that's a bad example.
She'll deal
I
with it.
realize that that's a bad example as soon as I said it. But still, I
So
don't want her to have to like break her neck to give me a.
I bring that up because I got excluded once by somebody who, when they found out my age, like when I was trying to tweak my dating profile, there are people that tell you don't put your height on there if you're under 5'11". Do put your height on there so that people that will exclude you off the rip will just exclude you. And I was naive and going, I want the best chances possible. Let me not put my height. But inevitably, it gets brought up. So somebody excluded me from my height and said, hey, you seem like a nice person, but this ain't gonna work. I'm like, all right, bet. I didn't rage out or, trip about it or anything like that. I'm like, your preference is your preference. It is what it is. But I'm telling you, in my head, you missing out. But you know what? Cool. You did me a favor. I saw this one person that did that to me later on in life. And I forget what the event was, but it wasn't just her and I, it was like other people. And then we were like around each other. And she came up to me later on and was like, you're just the way you were online in person, because we never got the chance to meet. And I was like, yeah, like what I portray is typically who I try to portray who I am, because, I ain't out here trying to catfish people or anything like that. She goes, you know, would you be willing to go? I think like
Nah,
bowling or something like that. She goes, you like bowling? I got she said somebody canceled out on her or something and wanted to know if I was interested in going bowling. Her treat. That's where she tried to get me. Interested in going bowling, her treat, because according to her story, I don't know if this is true or not, but she said it was already prepaid. All I had to do was show up. And I was like, no, I'm not interested.
I'd have been petty and still gone bowling, like still have gone to the same bowling alley and just not with her. But that's just me. I got to do better in life. All right. So I think I saw Paul's question. Can you scroll up? Because
Yes,
now I don't see Paul's question. Paul's question says, for me, is it shallow to only date someone of a particular faith? And here's the thing. I am not going to say it's shallow, because all of those religious beliefs, all of those religions say that you should only date someone who is like you. And I believe that because that is what they have grown up hearing, that I don't think is shallow. What I will say is, because there are so many people who are in those faiths, in those religions, who don't all look the same. So, Islam, one of Islam and Judaism, the two highest, most populated religions, which is not Christianity. But if you look like and I say this, how do I say this respectfully? The color spectrum of people who are Jewish, the color spectrum of people who are Muslim, it's a wide variety. Because I love watching dating shows. So specifically matchmaking shows. So I did watch the Jewish matchmaker and I did watch the Muslim matchmaker. And what I realized is that you can have a white Muslim, you can have a black Muslim. So for them, I don't think it boils down to being shallow, because they're focused on one particular personality or belief, which just so happens to be religion. But other than that, they're open to everything else. Like, I'm fine if you are a different race from me. I'm fine if you're shorter or taller or whatever. So I don't think that that is shallow, simply because that is the faith that they believe. The faith that they believe says that you need to marry someone who is like that. And actually, they probably are the least shallow, because they have so many allowances otherwise that they give once inside the faith, as long as the person is inside of the faith.
Okay. I think what you stated then covered the last part of that as well. Should one be more open if the values align?
But I do say that. I do say if your values align, your values align. Some people would say that a Southern Baptist, so going into Christian denominations, some would say that people of different denominations shouldn't marry. I know someone who is Baptist who's married to a Catholic, and for some, they consider that like a difference in faith, a difference in belief. Although both of them believe in Jesus, there's that difference in how they believe and how they worship. You can even see that sometimes in Islamic belief, that someone may be like a Sunni Muslim and then someone is Nation of Islam Muslim, and that's a big difference to them. And that can kind of skew how they will date as well. So I can see that happening sometimes. But again, it falls back to how are your values aligned?
Time wrote the following that I want to comment on. Your values should come from your parents that set the foundation, a structure in your life. And if there are no parents, big mama and grandma should be that influence. But this is 2025. That's really difficult. For example, my mom and dad were married when I was coming up. They had, to me, wildly different values now that I'm older.
Mm-hmm.
And they watch our stuff, so they're going to hear me say this. You did not have your father for your formative years. And your mother,
uh-huh.
and your mother, she didn't really talk to you about dating and
about
relationships and values and stuff. It did really. No, wait, no, I'll ask you that off camera. If we want things to turn around, what time suggested can be a good starting point. But people are too busy in their work lives to really set the tone for their kids. I'm gonna say this. I was devastated. My daughter was in a relationship with somebody while she was in high school. The young man was a grade above her. I'm really cool with their parents. I found out about the relationship through my ex-wife, not my own daughter. And I felt as though I cultivated trust in her for her to be able to share that kind of stuff with me. But it was one of those things, I was kind of in my feelings about it, because when me and my ex-wife got divorced, it was one of the things that made me go, crap, I'm not going to be able to really parent my daughter the way I'd want to by being present in the house all the time. It's not like we live in different states or different area codes or whatnot. She's always been within 30 minutes away. But still, my influence, that's what it is. My influence was going to be different because I wasn't in the house. I felt like that would have been one of those moments, and I could still be wrong. Maybe young women,
yeah, I was about to say,
don't really
think
talk
that
to
had
their
anything
dads
to do
like
about
that.
you not being there.
But I felt like I would have known faster. I felt like I was the last to know, and that sucked.
I can't negate or take away how you may have felt in that instance, and how it may have felt to be the last one to know. But I don't think that it was an intentional slight. I just think that sometimes there are things that young girls will go to their moms for before they go to their fathers for.
Okay.
So in the house or not.
Okay. We have a couple more comments on TikTok I want to highlight. Lost in Translation wrote, as a tall person, you deliver the love down to where people can receive it. That's interesting because you're taller than me. He also followed that up with, as a Christian, you deliver the love to where people can receive it.
100%.
That's kind of what God does, is how they ended it.
I will also say, so just picking up on the religion thing, the Bible is clear, and all of those religious texts are very clear in what it says. I think another thing to also look at is, if you're Christian, Jesus didn't just hang out with religious folks. He was around other people, and he showed God's love to all. And I think you meet someone where they are, and you can continue to just love them and not change it. I think it comes to a head when you try to change that person. Like, I'm in church every Sunday, and come on, let's go to church. Let's go to church. Like, just get up. Like, I don't understand why it's so difficult. And I say that because I remember doing that to someone. Now, it was someone who said that he himself was a Christian, but he literally and physically, like when I say he literally got sick every time he went to church, he got sick every time he went to church.
That's interesting.
I don't know if it was psychosomatic or what, but regardless, the result was the same. He got sick every time he went.
Did he read and study the Bible? Because I know you do.
He did not.
Interesting. How can you know what? I'm not going to ask that question here.
And that's why religion is a thing for you. And I get it.
I'll ask it on my Wednesday live stream. Tune into the actual King Smith Wednesdays at sometime in the evening.
Oh my gosh, not sometime in the evening. Wait, scroll up. Someone said I have tattoos. Who is that?
Oh, so Pete said, I had a girl who didn't want to date me because I have tattoos. That falls in that discrimination
that's
fine
discrimination.
line. Yeah, I think it's a fine line. I think though that you could have that as a
what do the tattoos have to do with anything?
It's you blocking your own blessing because it could be more aligned with how your immediate peers and family members would see that person.
I think it depends. Like, I can't immediately say I date someone with a face tattoo. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's different because I look at that not even from a what would my peers say, but I'm like, well, how you got a job though? Because like, that's my business hat coming on. And I have visible tattoos. I have very visible tattoos. I'm also an educator, so my tattoos it is what it is. Or I can throw a long sleeve on. Here you go.
Your tattoos could have excluded you if they were gaudy or I'm gonna tell you right now, there are several that now one in particular, the big chest tattoo, I'm not a fan of that.
First of all, I love Jesus and I love my cleavage. Okay, I have always loved my cleavage. Never ever, and you could tell from pictures. I'm not gonna say that comment. No, you know what? I will say it. There are some people at my church who have a problem with how I dress because I fell in love with my body that God gave me. And it is not my fault if a man cannot stop looking at said body. And I don't feel like I should have. But that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that chest art right here. Like, yes. That's me personally. I don't believe in it. I have a tattoo right here. It's I would say it's fairly small. Anything that's like the palm of my hand, because despite me being significantly taller than him, that hand, my hand is very small.
And you got small feet.
And I got small feet. I have that tattoo here. Anything smaller than the palm of my hand, I consider it small. I don't believe in big gaudy pieces. This is, aside from my thigh piece, this is like literally the biggest tattoo I have on my body. And I was very intentional about getting it there in a place where I could see it. Like, there's a level of intentionality that goes into the tattoos that I have and their location. So I don't believe in gaudy. I don't believe in that in any way, shape, or form.
From you, so your preference, from a man, if I was tattooed up, let's say neck all the way down, full things, is that something that would have excluded me had you known it?
No, it wouldn't have excluded you, but how do I put this? I think that sometimes, like, when you sleeve it up, but it's a whole bunch of like little tattoos, not one, if it was one consecutive theme that you had that created the sleeve, I think that's different than having a bunch of little tattoos here and there that end up making the sleeve. And I would have been like, that looks weird to me, but it wouldn't have disqualified you because I like tattoos.
You know, and it's funny because it kind of goes back to what you grew up around. Pete, in particular, I was thinking about growing up like in high school. Where I'm from, people really don't get tattoos under the age of 17.
Oh, man, you got to see this class now. I got kids at school that got more tattoos than me.
I saw some when at your school and at my daughter's school that I was just like, this is insane. I didn't think kids would. Anyway, I grew up in the church, and a lot of the church doctrine spoke about, and y'all, it's been a minute, something about bodies being the temple and not displaying all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I'm messing it up, so let me stop. But I couldn't have brought anybody around because a lot of the people that I was around were my family, and a lot of my family was in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the community in town that I lived in also really wasn't that big. So that was a thing for me then because of that element. But as an adult, personally, excluding the gaudy chest tattoo piece, if you had tattoos, I wouldn't have cared. But it took me to be older to realize truly what I would want and what I'd be comfortable with and not care about what other people might think.
And see, I see what Paul said. He did put a laughing emoji at the end of it. I remember when I was younger in high school, because again, in high school, the people I went to school with, like, no one had tattoos. But my students today, some of them have way more tattoos than I do. Like, I have a student who's like working on the sleeve. Um, I'm like not even there. He also plays ball and football, so it's culture for that as well. I think times have just changed. I feel like as long as it does, and so many professions have changed, so it's very little that would prohibit you from doing. There are some things that, like, if you're going to go undercover, like, some things you just can't have. Speaking of tattoos, um, Pete Davidson, he's going through getting all of his
I
tattoos
saw that.
removed.
I saw that.
And he spent like over 200K already getting his tattoos removed. And he's doing it specifically because he wants to be able to get more acting positions. And it took too much time and money for them to be covering up his tattoos every time he was doing something. So he's getting them removed. Hey, props to you. Every tattoo that I got was for a specific reason and put in a specific location. And I remember when I accepted my call to ministry, that was one of the things that I said to my pastors. I was like, look, y'all, God called me with locks, a nose ring, and piercings. And I'm not taking out any of them to serve in your pulpit. Like, not a one. And that was my thing. And they said to me, like, I'm not trying to change you. We're not trying to change you. This is where you were when God called you. And I'm always like, you know what? If God didn't want me to have any of this, he could have called me before I was 25.
Okay. We're about to wrap up.
We are about to wrap up.
But I do want to acknowledge Mrs. She Said is in the building.
Hey.
Salute to Miss Harris over there.
Harris Tribe.
Yeah, I can say. I was like, wait, can I say her last name?
Yeah.
Only because they do have their they have a fantastic and a very interesting. They got a couple of different.
They got like
things that they do,
but it's all done in excellence.
I need to have the bot that y'all have set up that you could put in a command type and it'll put the link up. They do some really cool stuff that I'm stealing. Let me just say that.
You just invite us back over, and King will take notes this time.
And we can have a learning session. Absolutely. Let's see. Tom said, no tattoos, no pork, definitely no smoking and drinking. Can you don't mess it up. Let me help you. Your body, mind, and soul is your temple, not the church. Ooh. Okay.
And it's funny that Tom said that, because that's rooted in a lot of religious beliefs. To not eat pork, to not have tattoos, to not smoke, to not drink.
You know, when we set up this this topic, initially I was like, man, I wonder what we'd be able to talk about as far as prefaces. But then as we started talking, there's like 6 different things that we could bring up, but we are out of time.
Okay.
I'd say that there's a big difference between unrealistic expectations and realistic standards. We're not telling you to not have standards.
Right. That's totally different.
Have your standards, stick to those standards. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Just understand, however, that with whatever your standards are, you should ensure that you're positioning yourself so that that person is also interested in seeking you and you fit their criteria. It's a process.
Yeah.
And I think very business minded in life and almost everything that I do. And I don't understand how people don't factor in the things that they would need to do to make a relationship successful. I think really if you treat if you treat a relationship like a business and you invest in that relationship, then you're investing in your own success or failure. But it takes two to make that work. Specifically in a monogamous relationship, it takes two. If you are somebody that has multiple equations to that, do you. I ain't stopping it. I ain't a part of it, but do you. Now, let me come over to TikTok, see if we have anything. We do not. What do you have to close us out with when it comes to preferences in relationships?
I think at the end of the day, you have to use a level of discernment. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. If I hadn't stepped outside my comfort zone of not wanting to date a divorcee, someone who has been married before and someone who has kids, we wouldn't be here today. If you hadn't stepped outside of your preferences, we wouldn't be here today. And I think that there is sometimes a great blessing that you miss when you are so caught up in it has to be just this way. I will also say don't try to change anyone. So if you know that like this is what you believe and then you find someone who has like 8 out of 10 of your boxes and you're trying to get them to convert or change to be able to hit the other two, I don't think that is fair. I don't think that is something you should do. Be honest, open, and transparent. Be hot in your search and in all that you're doing. And don't try to change people, man.
No doubt. No doubt. That's solid right there, babe. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome, boo.
Shout out to Lost in Translation said, yeah, I had to slide over here and subscribe to YouTube as well.
Thank you.
I'll check to see if we're subscribed to you or not. I haven't seen your stuff pop up, but I'm definitely going to do that after we get done and subscribe over to your stuff as well and check you out. Thank y'all for tuning in. Paul Bennett said, great show, great live stream. Hey, Paul, thank you for tuning in. Paul has slid through most Mondays.
Paul has been awesome. Yes, thank you.
Like, I look at Paul, and Paul's, like, to me, Paul's the OG. Paul, I'm telling you, I met Paul once, and I was like, this dude is dope. And hopefully we can link up in person here sometime soon, Paul, because we need to get some more time on the link up than what we had when we were at New York Comic Con. Pete, make that happen. This weekend, Michelle and I are going to be down at BlurredCon in DC. So if somebody happens to see this and they're like, oh, that's cool, we'll be down at BlurredCon too. Let us know.
Come find us. So speaking of BlurredCon, Blurred is Black Nerd, and I'm such a nerd because I was literally scrolling through and looking at the agenda for this weekend, making my own little sheet of paper of the classes, sessions, or workshops that I wanted to be able to attend. And I'm like, I want to go to this, and I'm writing it like all nice and neat to make sure that I go there because I am such a nerd.
You are. But you're my nerd, and that's all right.
Yes, I am, baby.
No doubt. All right, y'all. I think last week I came to you.
I don't remember.
All right, bring them lips over here.
Hi, baby.
We end our live stream the same way.
Mwah.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.